In all facets of American life, the degree to which you can speak your mind is being artificially restrained. It's being curtailed. You know it, you feel it. I talked about it yesterday, and I think it ties in well with the Brookings Institute and what the New York Times and the Brookings Institute were trying to do to this radio program. If you speak outside the acceptable norms, you are a threat. Doctors who spoke out against masks and the shutdowns of schools were a threat to the idea that all doctors had the same opinion. You know, when I spoke at that school board meeting back in August of 2021 and laid out all the data, the same things that I would have been saying to you, I care about my kids more than anything in the world. If my young kids had been safer from masks, I would have been fine with masks being used. They were not. I was not fine with the cosmetic theater. I spoke out on behalf of many parents who felt the same way, and I think almost all parents now recognize that masking kids made no sense. Every single person who spoke against us was in the medical field. They were in their scrubs, nurses and doctors all wearing masks, saying it was unsafe for kids to be in school without masks. Why were they dressed overwhelmingly in their medical gear? Because they were using their profession as a bonus, as the legitimizing force behind their opinion. And they were all wrong. Many doctors knew that they were all wrong, but they were so afraid of the power of that doctor cartel that many of them would not speak out for fear of what might happen to them. If you counter the majority opinion in much of American society today, you are risking everything. That is, unfortunately, meaning that the marketplace of ideas itself is under siege. And that is terrifying, should be. Well, also terrifying is what medical experts are saying to explain why there has been a 30% increase in heart attack deaths among people aged 25 to 44. For a long time, they said, oh, this is just make-believe. There's not more heart attacks. It's just anecdotal. You're just making it up. Well, now, even on CBS News, they're discussing a massive increase in young people heart attack deaths, right? Used to be you died 25 to 44 of a heart attack. That's almost unheard of. Up 30%. Here's what they said on CBS was causing it.
And do we know why why younger people might be more at risk? Or
we don't know for sure. And in fact, these death certificates are probably not even capturing the fact that they might have had COVID. They're really just saying, did you die from a heart attack or not? What we do know, however, is that younger people were less likely to protect themselves against COVID than older people, less likely to mask, less likely to take other mitigation measures. And they were also farther back in line to get vaccinated. So they were not protected with vaccination until later in the pandemic. Those might have been a factor here.
People are dying of heart attacks because they didn't wear masks enough at the age of 25 to 44. Do they really think that we're this dumb? And when they mentioned the COVID shot, do you see what they did there? They said, oh, they weren't getting the COVID shot enough. When is the light bulb going to go off in many of these people and they're going to start to say, wait a minute, actually, maybe this could be connected to the COVID shot itself, which has been shown to create severe heart-related issues. Wait till that light bulb goes off. We're getting closer, but you're not allowed to say it yet. Going to get hauled before the medical board. Good thing I don't have a degree in medicine. Damar Hamlin, we know, collapsed on the field during Monday Night Football. Now, on a positive note, he was on the field for the Super Bowl on Sunday, introduced alongside with the medical team. He did his first sit-down interview with Michael Strahan, and Michael Strahan asked what caused his issue. This was the response.
You're 24, peak physical condition, could run circles around me right now. How did doctors describe what happened to you?
That's something I want to stay away from.
Wow. Can we just play the question there? Because I want you to hear it again, because when I heard it, I was like, wow, that's a staggering answer. Michael Strahan asked Damar Hamlin, who collapsed on the field and may well have died without the assistance of medical professionals, what happened to him, and he says he wants to stay away from it. Listen.
You're 24, peak physical condition, could run circles around me right now. How did doctors describe what happened to you?
That's something I want to stay away from.
That's something I want to stay away from. How strange does that strike many of you? Because when I heard this, I thought, that's something you want to stay away from. That's actually the single most important thing we all need to know. Because whatever happened to Damar Hamlin that almost killed him on the football field could happen to another athlete somewhere else. And so what happened to him, now that we know he's recovered, is actually the single most important thing that all of us need to know. So what did doctors tell him? And how are they not sharing their diagnosis publicly? What is this? That's something I want to stay away from? I wish I'd been doing this investigation, this interview, I should say, instead of this investigation, because I wouldn't think it would turn into an investigation. But sometimes when you get an answer like that, you have to really follow up. Because my first thought when I saw Damar Hamlin go down was, oh man, this is awful. I hope I never see this happen again. And that's usually what happens, right? People, when something tragic occurs, there's an investigation, there's a determination of what happened, and you try to ensure that it never happens again. But what did we see happen in the case of Damar Hamlin? Almost immediately, everybody came out and said, you can't even mention the COVID shot or any of the heart-related conditions that we currently know are existing. I wanted to tie this Damar Hamlin clip in with a clip we played a little bit earlier in the show, if I could, of CBS acknowledging that there now is a 30% increase in heart attack deaths among people aged 25 to 44. And what did CBS attribute it to? Young people weren't wearing masks enough. Listen to this cut. They're not even denying the data now, and see if there might be a connection, potentially, between the two.
And do we know why why younger people might be more at risk? Or
We don't know for sure. And in fact, these death certificates are probably not even capturing the fact that they might have had COVID. They're really just saying, did you die from a heart attack or not? What we do know, however, is that younger people were less likely to protect themselves against COVID than older people, less likely to mask, less likely to take other mitigation measures. And they were also farther back in line to get vaccinated. So they were not protected with vaccination until later in the pandemic. Those might have been a factor here.
We've reached the you can no longer deny what the data is telling us stage, right? Because even on CBS, they're coming on and they're saying, well, there's an outrageous increase in the number of young people dying of heart attacks. 25 to 44 years old, up 30%. I mean, that's a lot. Put that into context. Murders went up at 30% in this country in the wake of George Floyd, and crime has been one of the top topics in America everywhere ever since. Well, heart attacks among 25 to 44-year-olds, they almost never happen. And here we've got an acknowledgement that they're up 30%, the same rate, by the way, that murder was up, that everybody was pulling their hair out and saying, we can't allow this to happen. And what do they say? Young people didn't wear their masks enough. Young people didn't get the COVID shot enough. That is their theory. The data is there. We've moved from this isn't happening, because that's what people used to say, to now they're trying to come up with a reason that it's occurring without connecting it to all of the young people who got COVID shots. And Damar Hamlin won't answer a question about what his doctors told him? I'm sorry. We desperately need to know why all of these young people are suddenly dying of heart attacks. And why I think it's going to continue to get worse. We've never seen a player like Damar Hamlin drop on the football field and almost die. What caused that? It's the single most important question now that we know he's going to live, because we don't want that to happen again. 30% increases that we are seeing in heart attacks. Why? Why is all of that occurring? What's causing it? These are very real, significant questions that need to be asked. In fact, if we had an honest media, they're the most important questions that might be being asked right now. Because a 25-year-old who suddenly has a heart attack and dies should be living until he or she is 75 or 80 years old based on actuarial tables. Not only can you not ask the questions, you can't even come up with hypotheses right now that are legitimate. I mean, imagine being a doctor and going on CBS and explaining that heart attack deaths are up 30% because young people didn't wear masks enough. First of all, masks don't work. So that's a laughably absurd proposition in the first place. But if you wonder why there's so little trust in our public health experts, it's because we get lied to all the time. And on this show, what we try to do a good job of is not say, hey, this is the definitive cause of this, but we definitely share the data with you. And if the data reflects that people are having skyrocketing rates of heart attack deaths, young people are, shouldn't there be a national demand that we know what's causing that? I mean, when murders went up 30%, everybody was talking about crime and how unacceptable that level of violence was. Well, when you got otherwise healthy 25-year-olds suddenly dropping dead, shouldn't we be asking what's causing that? I think it's one of the biggest stories that's going on right now in the nation's public health, and almost nobody's talking about it. And I don't think it's crazy at all to ask the question, could this in some way be connected to all the young people that were forced to get COVID shots, to go to college, to go to high school, to play sports, when COVID posed them a statistical risk of 0? We know we failed our kids in terms of shutting down school. But what if that's just the tip of the iceberg? What if we actually killed kids by forcing them to get a shot they had absolutely no reason to get? And how in the world is every media member with an ounce of sanity, with a scintilla of respect for their job and their audience, not asking these same questions? Couldn't stop thinking about it when I heard those two clips in conjunction, one with the other.